Okay, starting off today's show, I wanted to talk about the biggest news in college basketball over the last couple weeks, and that has been the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the NCAA's announcement to ban them from this upcoming NCAA tournament. And I have a lot to say about this, and I'm really not happy with the NCAA right now, and that's where I want to start off. Oklahoma State, they broke rules. I totally understand that. And before I go on my rant, I know there are going to be people that say, Zach, Oklahoma State broke the rules. They have to be punished. And I agree. They should be punished. Absolutely. No doubt about it. They didn't follow the rules, even if it was 3-4 years ago, even if their coach Mike Boynton was not the head coach at the time, and Brad Underwood was, and the player Jeffrey Carroll that allegedly got the money, even though he's no longer there. I get it. I would have punished Oklahoma State too. But at the same time, I don't think the NCAA should have hammered them as hard as they did, and I'll tell you why. Number one, if you guys don't know the whole story, in 2017, Mike Boynton was actually an assistant coach for Brad Underwood at Oklahoma State. And Underwood was only the coach of Oklahoma State for one season. And it turned out during that one season, one of his assistant coaches, Lamont Evans, was actually taking money from, just all over the place. He was just stacking up money. He paid some of it to Jeffrey Carroll, former player in the Oklahoma State program that is no longer on the team. And basically, when you look at Mike Boynton didn't do anything wrong. And Lamont Evans, yeah, he was stealing the money, and I get it. He should have been penalized, which the NCAA rightfully did. He has a 10-year show cause. He is no longer, he's not allowed to coach college basketball in the next 10 years. So when you look at Lamont Evans, the NCAA did take care of him, and that's the one thing I'll give them credit for. But at the same time, when you look at Oklahoma State in this situation, and you look at what exactly they did, this is where I have my problem. And this is why I just don't think they should be punished as bad as they were. Because they had one level 1 violation. If the NCAA wanted to take away scholarships, if the NCAA wanted to give them a big fine, I totally understand that. But the fact that on June 10th, in the middle of a pandemic, when we don't even know what exactly the college basketball season next year is even going to look like, right? The fact that the NCAA decided to do this, man, I don't get it. I really don't. And here's the other thing, and this is the other fascinating thing. The NCAA cannot be hypocritical here. And what I mean by that is this. A lot of people are saying, we're saying after this news dropped out that, wow, the NCAA is really about to hammer all of the other schools involved in the FBI case. Kansas with the Adidas, Louisville with Brian Bowen, LSU, Arizona, USC, like all those schools. A lot of people were saying that they thought all of those schools were going to be punished within, this trial. And as much as I want to agree with that, I just don't trust the NCAA to make that kind of a decision. When you look at Kansas, we all know that Kansas is the king of the Big 12. And we all know that as college basketball fans on Big Monday, we're more likely to watch when Kansas is playing. And that, in essence, makes the NCAA and the Big 12 more money. And that's why I just don't see them punishing Kansas. Now, am I saying that Kansas should be punished? Absolutely. Especially when you look at the way the NCAA decided to come down on Oklahoma State. I don't understand how you could ban Oklahoma State from the NCAA tournament with one level 1 violation, and then you have a school like Kansas and Bill Self, who has been in trouble multiple times, and what they did, you have proof of, and what they did was clearly worse than what Oklahoma State did. I don't know how you could just go out here and pretend not to punish them when you did this to Oklahoma State. And if the NCAA wants to send a message, that's fine. The problem is you have to be fair about it. You can't punish and drop the hammer on Oklahoma State if you're going to treat Kansas and Louisville and all of the other big-time schools like nothing happened. And that's kind of a common theme with the NCAA. That's what they usually do, is they'll kind of pull a Boston Red Sox in baseball, and they'll say, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to investigate it. And they just never get to it. And they just hope and pray everyone forgets about it. I don't know if that's exactly what they're trying to do here. But at the same time, if I was an Oklahoma State Cowboy fan, I would not be happy, man. This team has had a chance to be really good this year. And this is a good segue into the other key point I wanted to make in all of this, is that when you look at Cade Cunningham, and if you don't know him, he is a top 2-3 recruit, and I think on ESPN he's the number 1 high school recruit in all of college basketball. And you guys know that ideally I'm on board of, all right, like you win championships when your team is full of team chemistry and experience, but every so often we do get a Zion Williamson, we do get a Ben Simmons, we do get an Anthony Davis, guys that are playing in college that we know have a chance to be stars, and we know have a chance to be one of the 2 or 3 best players in all of college basketball. And I've seen Cade Cunningham play, man. This kid is the real deal, and I do think he was good enough to lead Oklahoma State to the NCAA tournament. And I also believe, and if there are any, I'm sure there are some Oklahoma State fans listening to this podcast, I do believe that if Cade Cunningham and everything would have went normal, I would have believed that this Oklahoma State team would have made the NCAA tournament this year with Cade Cunningham, even playing in a tough Big 12. That's how good I think this kid is. And it just sucks, man. It really does. When the NCAA, it's almost like they're trying to ruin their own product. The NCAA has to realize that what's been happening with Major League Baseball, and then the decline and the lost love for the game, that could happen in college basketball if these stars like Cade Cunningham, like Jalen Green, like Isaiah Todd, keep on playing in the G League. And it's good for them. I understand why they're doing it. Would it be the road I would go? No, because I think college basketball has a lot to offer. But at the same time, I just think the NCAA really screwed up here, because not only are they ruining their own product, but they're doing it for the second year in a row. You guys remember last year when James Wiseman when he committed to go to Memphis, and when he went to Memphis, he really had no idea that Penny Hardaway and his mom were, that Penny was paying his mom in between and to move to Memphis. Like, he had no idea. And the NCAA originally cleared him, but then they sat him out 14 games, and he's like, all right, like, I'm going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Why do I still need to be here? Why do I have to go to college? And when you look at this from James Wiseman's perspective, I mean, you get it. And it's similar here with Cade Cunningham. And what I mean by that is this. The NCAA, even though Oklahoma State broke some rules, and keep in mind, these are minor rules. I don't want to say minor, but these were much better, or they weren't worse than what Kansas did. They weren't worse than what Louisville did. And the NCAA could have just said, all right, we'll fine you, and Cade Cunningham could still go to college, and Oklahoma State could still make the NCAA tournament. But if you're at Oklahoma State right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and you're already being told that your season is basically over and that you can't make the NCAA tournament, especially the year following the NCAA tournament getting canceled, like, that's just such a bummer. And here's the other thing. I don't know why the NCAA always bans, when they ban teams from tournaments, why do they do it right now? It should be a year after. The players on Oklahoma State right now shouldn't be punished for something done when they were 15 or 16 years old by an assistant coach that wasn't even there when the head coach was there. Like, you know what I mean? That just shouldn't be the case. And if I was an Oklahoma State player, if I was an Oklahoma State fan, I'd be pissed off about it. Not going to lie. Like, what are we doing here? The NCAA, they better hammer Kansas, man. That's all I have to say. They better hammer Kansas. Because if they don't, and I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'd already be fuming. But now, woof, man, if they don't punish Kansas, I don't even know what I'd say by the NCAA, man. They've done so much to try to ruin their own product, whether it's pushing James Wiseman out, now pushing Cade Cunningham out. And here's the other thing I didn't even mention, is that already players are starting to go to the G League. If you're a top high school commit, I don't know if you guys saw, but Jonathan Kuminga, the number 1 recruit in the class of 2021, actually just announced the other day that he's going to be reclassifying into the class of 2020, and most people that I've heard are saying that he isn't even going to consider playing college basketball, and the G League is the best option for him. And keep in mind, that is the number 1 recruit in next year's class. And the reason why I bring him up is because I do think if Cade Cunningham would have went to Oklahoma State, would have gone to college, would have led them to the NCAA tournament, maybe America's view on top recruits going to college would have been a little different. Maybe they could have seen the benefits that playing even for 1 year in college really does get you. If Cade Cunningham could have carried a team like Oklahoma State, a team that, let's face it, hasn't really been good over the last couple of years. But I know one thing about the Cowboys, man. Doug Gottlieb and them, they got some pretty passionate fans, especially when the Cowboys are good. And I guarantee that city in Stillwater would have rallied around this Oklahoma State team and Cade Cunningham. He's that good of a player. He would have formed a super dynamic backcourt with Ice Likely, a guy that when he was out of the lineup with Mono last season, Oklahoma State was a different team. And I do believe if him and Cade would have played together, Oklahoma State could have had one of the 2 or 3 best backcourts in all of college basketball. I'm not even kidding when I say that. And once again, the NCAA is just punishing themselves here. Like, it's kind of like last year, the NCAA banned Georgia Tech from the NCAA tournament for something very similar. You know, it wasn't really that big of a deal. Chris Bosh took out Wendell Carter on his recruiting trip to a couple strippers, and the players on that team get punished, and they get told that they're missing the NCAA tournament when we don't even know if next season is definitely going to happen yet. Like, what? It's really frustrating, man. It really is. And I really couldn't even imagine if I was an Oklahoma State fan. I feel for Mike Boynton. Once again, he wasn't even the coach when this happened. I feel for Cade Cunningham. All signs, I think, are pointing for him to go to the G League. He did consider Kentucky when he was choosing a school. He did consider Florida and Kansas as well. But with that being said, it doesn't really make sense now for Cade to play college basketball. I guess he can if he wants and maybe transfer, but it's late. We're already in the middle of a pandemic. His brother is a coach on the Oklahoma State staff. That is really probably one of the only reasons why he went there. And this kid is not going to be able to play at Oklahoma State in the NCAA tournament, man. It's awful. And especially when you consider that Oklahoma State really didn't break that many rules. And usually, I don't want to say I'm pro NCAA, but in terms of like their decisions, like I don't hate them. Like in terms of like the waivers and like getting players eligible and, you know, punishing teams, like usually I'm on their side, but with this one, I'm absolutely not. And by the way, for anyone listening, that does not mean I don't think the NCAA is corrupt. They do just bringing a ton of money from these college kids, and if we can figure out a way to pay them, I absolutely do think that we should as soon as possible. But even with that being said, what they did to Oklahoma State was unacceptable, and all I'm going to say is this, once again, every other school in the FBI trial better be punished, because if not, Oklahoma State fans were already mad. Just imagine how they're going to react to that now.